Hello, everyone. My name is Miss A, and I'm very excited to be participating in the Home and Schools Storytime series. Today, I will be sharing a very special book about autism, as April, which is only a few days away, is Autism Acceptance Month. So I hope you enjoy Storytime with a speech-language pathologist. Before I get to the book, I do have some information to share about autism to help us learn and grow together. As you can see here, there is a different symbol representing autism these days. First, you may hear me use what we call identity first language. So rather than child or student with autism, you will hear me say autistic child or autistic student. This may sound different than you are used to, but what I am learning from adults with autism and the autistic community is that they prefer identity first language because they are proud of the autistic community and they don't want to separate their diagnosis from who they are. Of course, if there is a child or family on my caseload who prefers differently, I would be happy to do whatever they feel is most respectful to them. You also see this infinity sign, and this is the new symbol for autism that we're seeing from the autistic community. And they prefer this symbol because the autism spectrum is not linear. It also represents that autism is not a disease and not something that needs to be cured or fixed, but something that shows that autistic people have need various levels of support, and we're here to learn and help them with whatever they need. So what is autism? Autism is a difference in the brain that allows people to experience the world around them in a different way. So that might be auditory information and how they process and understand auditory things around them, from noise in the hallways to traffic outside. It may also include visual stimulation, what they see, the lights that they see, and how they perceive them. And what I'm learning is that they perceive these things differently based on how their brain is structured or wired. Everyone is different. So just like we all look different on the outside, our brains are different too. And honestly, that's what makes us so special and unique, with our own areas of strengths and areas where we need support. Speaking of strengths, I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of the accomplishments of my autistic students. If you look up here on the left, these are all of the race medals of one of my autistic students who competes in races. That's quite an accomplishment in and of itself, that he has the courage and motivation and stamina to train and participate in these races. But what's even pretty cooler is that sometimes he wins his division or comes in first place within his age bracket. Down here on the bottom in the bottom right corner, this is some of the clay artwork of another one of my autistic students. She's pretty creative. Look at the detail in some of these creations. Pretty impressive. These pictures here, they aren't exact work of my students, but they represent some of their other strengths. I have some students who have incredible math brains, and they do some math skills in my speech room that I have to go on my phone and use my calculator to check their work, but they do it in their heads. I also have autistic students who love and create incredible Lego sets. So remember, we all have different strengths. So let's learn some more. Now I will jump into my story, I See Things Differently, A First Look at Autism by Pat Thomas. And at different points, I'll stop and we'll talk about some of the things that we learn in this book. Do you know what it feels like to be worried or nervous or scared or feel different from other people? We all feel these things sometimes, but people who have autism feel these things a lot. You probably know someone with autism. It could be someone at school, in your neighborhood, or even in your own family. You may have seen them behaving in ways that seem strange to you and wondered why they do these things. But even if you ask them, they may not be able to explain. In fact, some people with autism don't speak at all. Autism is something you are born with. It's not something that you catch from others. When people have autism, it affects the way their brain works, making them behave or react differently from others. Nobody knows exactly what causes it, and figuring that out isn't easy because the way our brains work is very complicated. Our brains help us make sense of the world. They help us learn from the things we do and see. They help us understand that if someone is smiling, that means they are happy. Or that the green pencil works just as well as the red one. Or if you put the peanut butter on first and then the jam, it tastes the same as if you put the jam on first. What about you? Do you know someone who has autism? Can you say what you think autism is? Have you learned anything so far? I'd like to go back a second, excuse me, to this page. First, we talk about how people with autism or autistic people behave differently than us. And sometimes that may seem strange. But what I want to point out is that those behaviors communicate something or mean something to the individual. And sometimes by doing those behaviors, it helps them to process the world around them and feel safe in an environment that may be scary. So rather than judging or trying to fix them, it's really important that we understand why and help support that person in the moment. At the bottom here, it talks about that some autistic people do not speak at all. And you may see some students around the halls that use AAC devices or iPads to help them communicate. But besides AAC, people are communicating in all kinds of different ways, not just through speech, like gestures, body language, and facial expressions. And we accept all forms of communication. And on this page, we talk about how we don't know what causes autism. And that's right, we don't. But it's okay that we don't know because we're not here to fix autistic people. We're here to understand and support them. So now we'll get back to our story. But for people with autism, their brains work differently from other people's. They may look the same as everyone else on the outside, but inside they can feel like everyone around them is speaking a different language or from a different planet. People with autism may find big crowds or loud noises frightening. They may repeat the same words over and over again or move their bodies in ways that look strange to you. When you talk to them, they may not look at you, and you may wonder if they are hearing what you say. Even small changes can be very upsetting to them. That's why they may always want to sit in the same chair, or read the same book, or use the same cup. These habits help people with autism feel safer and more able to deal with all the things they are feeling, kind of like I just said. What about you? If you know someone with autism, what are some of the habits that make them feel safe? Do you have habits that make you feel safe too? I'll take the second question first. If I'm at home and I'm feeling overwhelmed, something that I do to calm me down and make me feel safe again is pet my dog. What's something you do? I do know autistic individuals, and they do have habits that I've come to understand help them feel safe. I have some students who like to sing songs, and when something is unfamiliar to them, I see them start to sing the song more. And I realize that song in that moment is comforting them because they're uncertain of the environment or the activity at that moment. That really helped me understand my students a bit better. Most of us are pretty good at finding ways to ignore things that we don't want to see or hear or do. But for people with autism, it can be harder to ignore things. I know for myself, when I'm working in my speech room, I cannot have my door open because the external noise in the hallway, no matter how minimal or loud it is, really distracts me. All the sights and sounds and smells around them come rushing into their brains like a giant wave. When that happens, they may feel lots of confusing feelings all at once. People with autism aren't bad or behaving wrongly, they're just different. And sometimes being different is a good thing. Some people with autism have amazing talents and skills, like I shared with you a little bit earlier. They may be good at music or painting or remembering things. They may be really good at math or understanding computer programs or fixing things. When people have autism, it can be hard for them to understand jokes or use their imagination or play pretend games. Being with more than one person at a time may be upsetting, and it could be hard for them to make friends. But we all need friends to love and support us. So if you know someone with autism, try to be a good friend. And if you need help with how to be a good friend, seek out an adult or me, and I would certainly, or the adults around you, would certainly help you. Be kind and patient, and don't expect him or her to grow out of it. That won't happen. He or she will always see the world a little differently from others. And that's okay. But with love and support from everyone around them, people with autism can learn to feel a little happier and safer each day. I hope you enjoyed that story. If you're looking for more stories about autism, here are some that I recommend. If you need any other resources or have questions about autism or the neurodiversity movement, please feel free to contact me at this email address here, and I look forward to continuing to respect and support minds of all kinds.